Welcome to another episode of the Profitable Home Services Podcast. I'm your host, Diane Gardner, and today we're going to be digging into a profit leak that many of you struggle with. I see it all the time when I'm working with home service businesses, and my leak today is: do you know and understand your time to profit ratio? Now, we're going to unpack that and give you some ideas on what that really means and how you can apply it in your own business. I see so many of my home service guys and contractors, they are booked solid, they're running nonstop, and they're answering calls right and left, their trucks are on the road, they're hiring employees, but they're not making much money. They're wondering where the cash is that matches that busyness. So, my question for you as we come out the gate on this particular profit inducing episode is: how many hours does your team have to work before you actually get to keep some of the money? And I'm not talking about total revenue or gross revenue. I'm not even talking about deposits of what gets put into the bank. I am talking about your net sales. And this is the real profit number. So we call this your gross profit number. I hate to see home service business guys struggle. They're just so busy and working your tails off. You guys are all heading into busy season if you're not already there. Your payroll is bigger this time of year. Yes, there's more cash running through the business, but there's more expenses going out as well. You think the revenue is really impressive, and this is the year we're going to do it. But so oftentimes at the end of busy season, we look at that net profit amount and go, what happened? So I want to introduce you to a concept that I call the time to profit ratio. Once you understand how this ratio works in your business, you're going to see profit leaks everywhere. So I want to say that busy does not equal profitable. Busy just equals busy. Most home service business owners were taught that more jobs equals more revenue, and more revenue equals more profit. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it is, but not always. Revenue can hide inefficiencies, those operational items within your business. They can very easily get covered up when your revenue is rolling. And a company can grow itself right into a cash flow problem, especially if your margins aren't aligned and they aren't correct. The more you sell, the more you can actually lose. And that's a dangerous idea. Now, just a few examples in this area are things like callbacks. Every time you have to go back and fix something, not only does it cost you that amount of time that you're spending to go back and fix it and possibly paying somebody to go back and do that, but it's costing you a job that could have been done in the place of that callback you had to go do. I'm also talking about things like underpriced jobs. When those margins aren't strong, the profits aren't there. How about excessive overtime? I see that so much during busy season. Trucks are running, overtime is piling up. What about poor scheduling? We've got everybody busy, and then there's this gap, and we got an hour or two before we get that next job in there. Or what about techs that are waiting for parts? That's another profit killer right there. Or that proverbial windshield time. They're driving to jobs and the jobs aren't laid out sequentially, so they end up crisscrossing back and forth across town. Or untrained employees. They're not fully trained well enough to do the job they're sent out to do or to represent your company in the way you want your company represented. How about you, the owner, being the bottleneck? Ooh, that was a touchy one, isn't it? I know we as owners oftentimes get in the way of what our team is trying to do because we want a certain outcome, or we're not able to make a fast enough decision, or we're waiting on something else to happen before that next step can happen. Just want to give you a quick little example from my own life on some of these leaks is we're in the process of getting a garage built on our property. We got a new home about a year and a half ago, and we're finally getting the garage built. I watched the crew of guys show up, and one of the first mornings that they were there to work, they got there about 8:30 in the morning, and you see them sitting around in their trucks, visiting, talking, whatever they were doing, and nobody was doing anything. Well, it turns out that somebody in that crew was supposed to have brought a particular tool that they needed. Nobody brought it. So they had to wait for somebody else to bring it to them. So they sat around my house for 2.5 hours. There was 3 or 4 guys working that day. What do you think it cost that owner? Because somebody didn't have a checklist to make sure that every part and tool that was for that job was there. No checklist equaled 3 or 4 guys, 2.5 hours each person. What a profit leak. And then a couple weeks later, they were back working on it again. And they were one truss short. Somebody had miscalculated the number of trusses that they needed. And so they had to stop what they were doing and wait for several days, or about maybe it was a week or so, for that last truss to show up. And then they had to show back up again and finish the job on that part. And then a couple, maybe another week or so after that, they were one board short from whatever section they were working on. And so they couldn't finish that section. And then several days later, here comes the one board that they needed, and then the crew gets going again. And I'm looking at this garage and going, profit leak, profit leak, profit leak. This guy cannot make any profit on our garage because of his own inefficiencies and scheduling problems, and looks like from the outside looking in, a lack of a checklist, a basic checklist. So huge profit leaks in that small job at my house of building a garage. Now I know a lot of you are home service and you're not building garages and things like that, but I just thought that made a good story to share. How it's those little things. It's one board, one truss, something small like that held up the job for a week, for several days, a lack of a tool. So these things we need to take a look in your own businesses. Do you have things like this happening where we are losing time? Because a busy business, especially during peak times, busy times, can be leaking money every single day. And that's a sad place to be. So now I want to stop for just a second and let's come up with a definition for the time to profit ratio. That's not a term that you've heard me talk about before. In fact, I will tell you I made up the term because I wanted something that would help you understand how to measure how efficiently your team converts your labor hours into real profit. And so to simplify it even further, the question is, how long does your business have to work before it actually gets to keep some money? At what point do you become profitable from your team's labor? And every company is going to be at a different point, a different ratio. We can take a look at 2 different companies, both of them generating the same amount of revenue. One of them keeps between 15 and 20% of the cost of each of these jobs as profit, but the other one's only keeping 2 to 3%. And it might be due to some of those examples that I shared just a moment ago. Which company is yours? And the difference between those 2 companies is things like efficiency and pricing, good systems and productivity, and those profit leaks. They'll take you down every time. And it's easy when you get busy to not be watching them as tight as you are maybe throughout the rest of the year. And when I'm working with home service business owners, I generally see that their biggest profit leaks are time leaks. Time just slips sliding away. When you have callbacks, because that's the number one item that I see in a time leak, you end up paying for labor twice. And in a traditional payroll scenario where you pay your production people by the hour, they get paid by the hour. there's no incentive for them to finish that job up neatly and quickly and high quality. There's no incentive for that. And there's a certain group of people out there who really don't have that pride and ownership. Now, your A players will always be there. They will always do the job and do it well. But it's some of the other members on your team, maybe some B and C players, that just slam through, get it done, and move on to the next job. And then you get the phone call from the homeowner. They're not happy with what happened, or it isn't working well, or something that causes you to have to send either that same person or somebody else back out to the job. Now, at that point in time, you're paying that second person to go back out, and that person now is not able to do the next job. So you get a double whammy on that particular time leak. Time leak number two, poor dispatching. When you have your techs sitting in traffic instead of producing revenue, that can be really expensive. And unfortunately, I see way too often techs crisscrossing across either town or the county or, within your geographic area. And that is not efficient. That does not create profitable jobs because windshield time generally isn't billable or chargeable or whatever term you want to use on that. And so that becomes a very large profit leak when you look at it over days and weeks and months and into the year. How many thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars does that cost you? Profit leak or time leak number three is underpricing. You're working so hard, but you're keeping less money, maybe because you're setting your prices based on what your competitor charges. Or maybe because you've never really calculated what it costs to do that job. You just threw a number out there that felt okay. So underpricing can be a really big one. It's really sad when I sit down with a home service business owner. We're on one of our coaching calls, and we actually cost out several types of jobs and find out that they're barely breaking even. And oh, that's a sad moment, but it's fixable. And we do get it fixed for them, get their business turned around and on their way to becoming profitable again. Profit leak or time leak number four is overtime. And this is what we talked about a little bit earlier. As you get busy, and sometimes it's a result of mistakes, sometimes it's a result of poor scheduling or parts that didn't get put onto the truck or the van or didn't even get ordered correctly, and we start running into overtime. It seems like the snowball just gets rolling and it's hard to get it stopped. Overtime, when it grows faster than your profit, can be a huge profit leak. And I see it quite often, more than I costed at your job, or if you prepared a bid or whatever way that you came up with the pricing on that job, you may not have factored in the need for overtime hours. You figured Tom's going to work on that job for 3 hours and Bob's going to work on it for an hour. Okay, we got 4 hours and off we go. Not realizing that, oh, there's an extra 2 hours in overtime. So that's another big profit leak. Number five, profit and time leak is that owner bottleneck. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. Everybody is waiting on an owner to make a decision. Now, not all home service business owners can make these really quick snap decisions. Some people need a little bit of processing time. I find myself in that court sometimes. I just need a little bit of time to think it through. Other times I'm quick making those decisions. And I feel bad if I stop the production flow from my team because I wasn't able to make that really quick, fast decision. Now, some decisions should not be made quickly because you do need a little more information, maybe some input from somebody else. But just wanted to make you aware of that oftentimes the owners can be the bottleneck. Or maybe that's an owner that can't be reached by phone or by text or something, and somebody needs to make a decision. Or maybe we've got an owner who's never given ownership of the job to their people. So now your people out in the field aren't allowed to make a decision. You make all those decisions. That's another way that owners are can become bottlenecks. So which one are you? Are you creating a bottleneck in your own business for your team? Every inefficiency increases the amount of time that your company must work before profit finally starts to show up. And when we're in this situation where profit isn't showing up like it should, making problems worse. And you're thinking, but Diane, I just need more sales. I can sell my way out of this. Not necessarily. Oftentimes, when your systems are broke and you sell more, we end up compounding the problem. And then the overtime really grows and the inefficiency grows and the customers aren't happy. You say you're going to show up at 10 and you don't get there till 1. That makes people really unhappy. And so these things just start happening because the team doesn't have that good, strong system behind it. And when your systems are broken, more calls can create more chaos. And you've all experienced, I have too in my business, chaos becomes rampant. And more employees create more payroll pressure. Your payroll gets higher and higher and higher, and that pressure is there to make payroll, whether it's every week or every other week, whatever your pay cycle is. More trucks create more overhead. And not only is it overhead in the way of fuel and things like that, but there's insurance, there's additional maintenance, there's this all those other costs that have to be factored in as well as you start growing your number of trucks. And more revenue just seems to really amplify those inefficiencies in your company. And I see owners that are just completely stressed out during busy time because everything just is going so fast and so hard and they're not able to keep up with it because they don't have a good system behind everything. So sometimes the problem isn't that you need more revenue. The problem is that your company is taking too long to turn that labor into profit. We don't have that solid foundation with your systems. But there are some things that will lower your time to profit ratio. And let's take a few minutes and go through those as well. So, things that improve your profit quicker or faster are better pricing. You're not competing on just price alone, or you're not competing on what your local competitors are charging. You don't want to be that low price person. You don't want to be the Dollar Tree out there. You want to be higher than that and to be perceived as a company who gives great value when you serve your different customers. And speaking of that, we want to look for ways that we can bring more value, additional value to each job. Have you ever thought about what could you and your team do to bring in some additional value? A couple of years back, I was working with an HVAC company down in Southern California, and they decided as part of their maintenance agreements, they would come out twice a year during their off season and they would carry a wide array of batteries. And when they came to their customer's home, they would change the batteries in their smoke detectors, in their remote controls, and all these various things in their house that had batteries in it. And their customers felt that that was such a valuable service that it really set them apart from their competition. Something as simple as carrying an array of batteries when they went out and did those maintenance calls a couple times a year. I thought, what a great way to differentiate yourself from your competitors. Your competitors aren't doing that. Or maybe it's that you're known for cleaning up so well behind yourself that people appreciate, they want you to come back and do the next job. A couple years back, I had a new roof put on my office building, and the roofing company happened to be one of my clients, and they did such a phenomenal cleanup job. I was so impressed that, boy, if I ever needed roofing or anybody that I know needs roofing, you bet I'm going to refer them because they did such an amazing cleanup job. And they were very nice and kind and respectful as we were trying to keep our business running while they were doing things. And they went above and beyond and they removed an old sign for me that I didn't know how to get out of there. They took that out for me. It just, they went above and beyond in the value side versus the guys back that are working on my garage at the end of each day when they leave. There's nails and screws all over the ground. There's bits and pieces of wood all over the ground, and my husband goes through and he cleans up after them every time they leave. Now, is that somebody I really want doing a future job at my house? No, I'd never call them back. They had a chance to deliver a little extra value, take a few minutes to clean up after themselves, but they haven't. They've left us a mess every single time they come out there. That's really sad because they've lost future jobs from us where we might have called them and asked them maybe to build us a deck or I don't know, to do something else. But they've lost that opportunity. And will I ever refer them to somebody else? No. Nope. They don't have a good enough system behind them. So we got to be paying attention to where can we bring extra value to our jobs. And then our next way to improve profit faster is better scheduling. Are we looking at ways to make our technicians, our installers, our production people more productive? Are we making sure that they have all of the supplies and job materials and equipment that they need on their vans or in their trucks? Are we helping them to get a more productive day? Or are we slowing them down? So if we want to increase profit, that's just one way to help increase those profits is to make sure they've got everything they need so that when they leave, they can get that job completely done. How about another way to increase those profits is having stronger systems? You've heard me talk about systems throughout this whole podcast today. Stronger systems create less chaos and less wasted motion, less wasted materials. All of those things come from stronger systems. So have you documented, have you set, this is how our company does it? This is the customer experience we want to create. Have you ever mapped that out for your production people to follow? And even for your internal people to follow, your salespeople, so they can talk about it. Hey, when our techs show up, here's what to expect. And making sure that everybody does it the same way. Creating that system behind it so that your customer gets the best experience that you can give them. You want them to become your wild, raving fan because you did such a great job and you left their place in such an amazing shape. How about your maintenance agreements? As this is another way to increase those profits. And like I talked before, bringing more value into those maintenance agreements. What little thing can you add that comes across as they care, they're offering me more value than what somebody else does? So those higher margins and that recurring revenue are huge keys in recouping and keeping your profits where they need to be. And then financial visibility is a big one because if you don't know your numbers or how to read your numbers, it's really hard to see those places where profit is leaking out. Somebody like myself can generally take a look at your profit and loss and your balance sheet, and I can say, oh, yeah, we have profit leaking out here and here and here. I can see it just by looking at it, but then I'm in people's books every day, all day long. So learning how to develop that sense of what should my numbers be versus what are they can really help you keep an idea and keep a thumb on lost profits and ways to recoup them. So here's a little bit of homework for you. I want you to think for just a moment, where is your company losing productive labor hours every week? And then is it in your callbacks, in your overtime? Maybe it's your windshield time or underbidding. Maybe it's in slow collections. You're not staying on top of getting paid timely. Maybe it's in scheduling inefficiencies. Do we have our techs hopping back and forth? Are there empty pockets in between? Are we looking at rework? That's another one. That's those callbacks at rework time. Or are your people waiting on approvals? They can't move forward till they get a certain approval. Or those proverbial, those owner bottlenecks. All of these are places that you can be leaking time out every single week. Which one of those are resonating with you? Pick a couple of them and then go to work on getting them fixed. If you need my help, I'm here to help. We've just recently started a new weekly call called our Profit Hotline Call. And if you need help or you have questions, you can register and submit your questions in advance, and I will be happy to answer profit related questions. I love finding profit leaks and showing you where and how to plug them. So you don't have to just grind it out forever. Yes, we all have to work hard, but you don't have to grind it out if we have the right profit, if we have the right systems in place. And I know many of you are not struggling because of a lack of work. You're struggling because your time is leaking away. And maybe you don't even understand the value of your own time as you, the owner. That's another topic for another day. So I don't want to see my home service business owners struggle because they take too long to convert labor into profit. So what's your time to profit ratio? And that's exactly what I do when I work with home service business owners. So, once again, I'd love to invite you to our free weekly profit hotline sessions. Reach out, there'll be a link in the show notes to this episode, and it's easy to register and submit your questions so we can get them answered for you. We just love to identify where profits leaking out in your business and show you how you can recoup those profits and add them back to your bottom line. I don't want you working harder. I just want you working smarter and keeping more of that money. So, if you'd like to find out where your company may be leaking profit, register for our upcoming profit hotline call. We're running them every Tuesday, and you can find all the information down in our show notes. So the goal is building a profitable business that supports what you want, your personal goals. Maybe it's to get out of debt, or maybe it's to buy a rental property, or maybe you've got a goal of growing this business, 10xing it, or whatever. Everybody has different goals. And my goal is to help you meet your goals. I want you to become wildly profitable. And I want you to love your business because so many of us started in business and the business has just kind of drug you down over the years and you don't love it anymore. Let's let you fall back in love with your business. Get excited over the ways that we can plug these profit leaks and start putting that money in your bottom line profit. So, we're going to call this a wrap on this episode of the Profitable Home Services. And I am your host, Diane Gardner. If you have found value in this episode, and I know you have, please reach out and like and subscribe. You can find us on all of the normal audio channels as well as over on our YouTube channel. We'd love to see you subscribing and liking and sharing this with your friends and your colleagues because it's my mission is to get the word out and to help make home service business owners profitable, wildly profitable, in fact, because you work too hard not to be profitable. And if you want my help, hop on one of our profit hotline calls. There's no commitment, there's no cost, just hop on and I'll be happy to have a conversation with you. So until next time, Diane Gardner saying, let's plug those profit leaks, let's make you wildly profitable. And we will catch you on the next episode as we unpack another group of profit leaks. Alrighty, bye-bye.